In a quiet Ohio town, 28-year-old Emily felt invisible, trapped in a life she never chose. Her wheelchair made every step a struggle, and the world seemed to pass her by, until a kind young mechanic named Jake arrived, ready to fix more than just her wheels. What happened next would change her life forever. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started. Emily had always been a lively, independent woman. Growing up in a small Ohio town she loved, exploring, riding bikes with friends, and spending weekends at the local fair. Life had been simple, yet joyful, until the accident that changed everything. One rainy evening, a car skidded on the slick road and collided with hers. The crash left Emily paralyzed from the waist down, confining her to a wheelchair. Suddenly, the world she once navigated freely seemed distant. Simple tasks became monumental challenges. Even familiar streets felt like obstacles, and she started retreating from life, overwhelmed by the frustration of her new reality. Her family tried to help, but even their efforts felt strained. Visits were sporadic, conversations brief, and Emily often sensed an unspoken pity in their eyes. Friends stopped calling as frequently, unsure of what to say or do. The cheerful laughter that once filled her home was replaced by quiet sighs and awkward silences. Neighbors who had once waved from their lawns now avoided eye contact. Emily felt invisible. It wasn't that people meant to hurt her, but the sudden change in her abilities made others uncomfortable. Emily noticed the absence, each passing day reinforcing her isolation. Even outside the walls of her home, life moved relentlessly. From her porch window, Emily watched families stroll by, joggers running with energy she could no longer muster, and children laughing as they raced their bikes down the sidewalks. She envied their freedom. Her wheelchair, old and worn, squeaked with every push, reminding her that mobility now came with limitations. The simple act of leaving her house became a strategic endeavor, requiring preparation, effort, and courage. Every journey, no matter how short, reminded her of what she had lost. She longed to move without struggle, to feel the wind on her face, to be part of the rhythm of life again. At first, Emily tried to maintain her independence. She would maneuver her chair across the neighborhood, determined not to let the accident define her. But the wheelchair's constant squeaks and unresponsive wheels made her trips exhausting. Often, she would arrive at a destination frustrated and exhausted, only to find that people didn't know how to interact with her. Doors that weren't wide enough, uneven pavements, and steps that seemed impossible created daily reminders of her vulnerability. She began to accept that the world wasn't designed for her mobility, and slowly she withdrew. Her porch became her sanctuary, a place where she could watch life without facing its challenges directly. One particularly quiet afternoon, Emily was struggling to navigate her uneven driveway when a young man appeared. Jake, a 25-year-old mechanic from down the street, noticed her efforts as he biked past. He had seen her around town before, always alone, always trying to maneuver her chair with careful determination. Today, he stopped, parking his bike nearby. "Hey, need a hand?" he asked with genuine warmth. Emily hesitated, wary of strangers, but something about his tone, sincere and patient, encouraged her to nod. Jake approached, examining the wheelchair with a careful eye, noting the squeaky wheels and loose screws that had made Emily's life so much harder. Jake didn't just see a broken wheelchair, he saw a person struggling to reclaim her life. He spent the afternoon adjusting the wheels, tightening screws, and oiling mechanisms to make her chair easier to maneuver. As he worked, he spoke gently, asking about Emily's life, her interests, and her dreams. At first, Emily responded cautiously, but his friendliness and patience slowly drew her out. She hadn't realized how much she missed simple conversation, someone treating her as more than her disability. By the time Jake packed up his tools, Her chair was moving smoother, and Emily felt a glimmer of hope she hadn't experienced in months. The following days, Jake returned, often bringing small repairs or modifications to make Emily's life easier. With each visit, the barrier of isolation seemed to lift. Emily began sharing small stories of her past, memories of childhood adventures, and her favorite Ohio festivals. Laughter returned, light and tentative at first, but gradually more confident. Emily realized that while Jake was fixing her wheelchair, he was also helping her rebuild her spirit. The town that had once passed her by began to notice subtle changes, too. Her renewed presence on the streets, her growing confidence, and the laughter that escaped her lips once again. For Emily, these visits became the highlight of her days. Jake didn't just repair machinery, he listened, encouraged, and offered genuine friendship. Emily found herself looking forward to their conversations and the moments of shared laughter. Each small improvement to her wheelchair was symbolic, a tangible reminder that life could still move forward. She began leaving the porch for short walks, gradually reclaiming independence she had feared lost forever. The quiet streets of her neighborhood no longer felt isolating. They became pathways of possibility, avenues for small victories and new connections. Her family noticed the change too. Conversations became warmer, visits longer, and Emily's confidence inspired them. Friends who had drifted away began reconnecting, drawn by her renewed energy and optimism. Emily's world, once dimmed by isolation, was slowly brightening. The impact of one young mechanic's kindness had rippled beyond just helping her move. It had restored a sense of agency, independence, and hope she had feared lost. Life had not returned to exactly how it was, but it had taken a turn toward something equally meaningful, a life redefined by resilience and unexpected friendship. By the end of the first month, Emily felt a subtle but profound shift. She no longer watched life from her porch with longing. She actively participated, rolling down streets she had once avoided, laughing with neighbors, and even helping others in small ways. The presence of someone who truly saw her, not as a patient or a burden, but as a person, made all the difference. Emily began to imagine a future filled with possibilities once again. The young mechanic hadn't just fixed her wheelchair. He had reminded her that she was still seen, still capable, and still deserving of joy and connection. Jake had become a regular part of Emily's days. Each morning, he would check in to see if her wheelchair needed adjustments or repairs. But their interactions were no longer just about mechanics. They talked about everything: music, movies, small-town life, and childhood memories. Emily felt an unfamiliar warmth, a connection she hadn't experienced since before her accident. The laughter returned to her home, echoing through the rooms she once kept silent. It wasn't just the wheelchair that moved more smoothly now. Her heart seemed lighter. Every small adjustment Jake made mirrored a deeper repair of her spirit. Emily started exploring the neighborhood with renewed confidence. Short walks turned into longer ones, and she discovered places she had avoided for months. The local cafe became a favorite spot, where she and Jake would sit by the window, sipping coffee and sharing stories. People began to notice the changes in her demeanor. Strangers offered smiles, neighbors greeted her warmly, and friends who had drifted away started returning. Emily realized that the world wasn't unkind. It had been waiting for her to reclaim her place in it. Jake's support had given her the courage to step out, to reconnect, and to live fully once again. The modifications Jake made to Emily's wheelchair transformed her mobility. New wheels, smoother bearings, and better support allowed her to navigate sidewalks, parks, and even uneven streets with ease. She no longer dreaded leaving the house, and the independence she regained reignited old passions. Emily began painting again, an art she had abandoned since the accident. Each brushstroke felt like freedom, a declaration that life was not over. Jake admired her work, offering encouragement without patronizing her. His presence was steady, reassuring, and patient. Emily realized that the care he gave extended far beyond the mechanics of her chair. He cared about her happiness, her growth, and her dreams. Days turned into weeks, and Emily noticed subtle changes in herself. She laughed more easily, shared more openly, and began planning small outings and visits. The emotional walls she had built began to crumble, replaced by curiosity, hope, and courage. Jake's constant presence was a reminder that she was not alone. Even when she doubted herself, he found ways to encourage and empower her. The town that had once ignored her began to see her in a new light. Emily's resilience and regained confidence inspired others, and she became a quiet role model for those facing challenges, showing them that kindness and patience could spark transformation. One afternoon, Emily and Jake ventured to a local park she hadn't visited in months. The sun was warm, the trees swayed gently, and laughter of children filled the air. Emily felt a joy she hadn't known in years. Jake pushed her wheelchair along winding paths, and for the first time, Emily truly felt part of the world around her. She realized that life, though different than before, was still full of beauty. Jake's kindness had created opportunities she thought she'd lost. Emily felt grateful, not only for the practical help he provided, but for the genuine friendship and respect he offered every day without expectation. As their friendship deepened, Emily discovered more about Jake. He was not just a mechanic. He was a compassionate, thoughtful young man who genuinely wanted to help others. He listened with patience, never interrupting or judging. They shared stories of childhood adventures, their favorite books, and silly mishaps from their pasts. Emily felt seen and understood in a way she hadn't in years. Slowly, trust grew between them, a bridge from her isolation to the wider world. The connection wasn't rushed. It was steady, like the rhythm of the repaired wheelchair moving smoothly along a familiar path. Emily began dreaming again. She thought about exhibitions for her paintings, volunteering at local centers, and perhaps even traveling short distances she had once feared. Jake encouraged her, helping her plan and supporting her independence. Each new idea became a possibility rather than a distant fantasy. Emily realized that the accident hadn't ended her life. It had redirected it, creating a new path she could walk or roll down with confidence. With Jake by her side, she felt empowered to reclaim the life she wanted, not the one she had lost. His care and friendship were catalysts for a transformation far deeper than she ever imagined. Their afternoons together were filled with laughter and small adventures. From local farmers' markets to quiet streets lined with autumn leaves, Emily experienced the town in ways she hadn't since the accident. The once daunting streets now felt inviting, and she moved through them with pride and assurance. Jake's quiet support never overshadowed her independence. Rather, it amplified her confidence. Emily began noticing the beauty in ordinary moments again. Sunlight reflecting on puddles, children chasing kites, the smell of fresh bread from the bakery. Life was no longer a series of limitations. It was a tapestry of possibilities, each day presenting opportunities to reclaim joy. One evening, Emily and Jake sat on her porch, watching the sunset. The sky was painted in shades of pink and gold, reflecting the warmth she felt inside. Emily realized that her heart had opened again, slowly but surely, to trust, friendship, and perhaps even love. The young mechanic hadn't just fixed her wheelchair. He had repaired her sense of belonging, her confidence, and her hope for the future. For the first time since the accident, Emily felt like she had a partner in navigating life's challenges, someone who genuinely cared and supported her in ways she hadn't thought possible. By the end of the second month, Emily's life had transformed in ways she hadn't anticipated. The wheelchair, once a symbol of limitation, became a tool for freedom. Her laughter, once rare, now filled the halls of her home and echoed across her neighborhood. Jake's friendship had become a lifeline, giving her courage to dream, explore, and connect. Emily realized that sometimes the simplest acts of kindness could create the deepest impact. With each visit, each conversation, and each repaired wheel, she reclaimed not just her independence, but a sense of purpose. Life was moving forward again, and she was ready to embrace it fully. Emily's world had changed in ways she hadn't imagined. With her newfound confidence and mobility, she began exploring passions that had once seemed impossible. Painting became more than a hobby. It was a way to express emotions she had long kept hidden. Her small art studio, once dusty and neglected, was now alive with color, brushes, and canvases. Jake encouraged her every step of the way, helping set up equipment and providing practical advice. But his encouragement went deeper than mechanics. He made her believe in herself again. Emily realized that the accident hadn't taken her creativity. It had just delayed its full expression. Word of Emily's talent began spreading. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers started visiting her home to see her artwork. Emily hosted small exhibitions, inviting locals to admire her paintings and engage with her story. The once quiet woman had become a symbol of resilience and determination in her town. People admired not just her art, but her courage in reclaiming her life. Jake stood by her side, quietly proud but never boastful. Emily knew she hadn't achieved this alone. His consistent support and kindness had provided the foundation for her renewed independence and creativity. Together, they had transformed not only a wheelchair, but an entire life. With her confidence restored, Emily began volunteering at local centers for people with disabilities. She taught painting classes, shared her experiences, and inspired others to rediscover their strengths. Her story of overcoming isolation resonated deeply, giving hope to many who felt trapped by their circumstances. Jake helped her organize these sessions, often staying late to assist with setup and transportation. Emily felt empowered, realizing that giving back brought a sense of fulfillment she hadn't expected. Her own journey of healing had now become a source of inspiration, proving that compassion, patience, and dedication could spark profound change in both the giver and the receiver. Beyond the practical and emotional growth, Emily and Jake's bond deepened into something more profound. Shared laughter and meaningful conversations turned into quiet moments of intimacy and trust. Emily found herself looking forward to their time together, her heart slowly opening to love again. Jake's presence was steady, never overwhelming, and always respectful of her independence. Together, they navigated not only the challenges of the world outside, but also the complexities of emotional vulnerability. Emily realized that love didn't require perfection, only understanding, patience, and kindness, qualities Jake embodied effortlessly. Her heart felt full in ways she had feared lost forever. Life in the town transformed along with Emily. People who had once ignored her now greeted her warmly, inspired by her courage and spirit. The small cafe she frequented became a hub of familiar faces, each acknowledging her presence with smiles and conversation. Emily felt a sense of belonging that had eluded her for years. Even the streets that once seemed daunting now felt inviting, pathways for adventure rather than obstacles. Each outing with Jake became a small celebration of independence, resilience, and companionship. Emily had regained not just mobility, but a meaningful connection with her community. Their daily routines, once mundane and solitary, were now filled with shared moments of joy. Mornings began with coffee and plans for the day. Afternoons included painting, exploring, or volunteering. Evenings were spent walking in the park or simply talking as the sun set. Emily treasured these ordinary yet profound moments, understanding that happiness often resides in simplicity. Jake's presence amplified her sense of possibility, reinforcing that life could be full of color, laughter, and love. The young mechanic had become more than a friend or supporter. He was a partner in every sense, helping Emily navigate life's challenges with grace and courage. One weekend, Emily and Jake organized a community art exhibit, inviting local artists and townspeople to participate. The event was a resounding success, showcasing creativity, collaboration, and the power of community support. Emily's paintings were displayed prominently, each piece telling a story of resilience and transformation. Visitors admired not only her artistic skill, but the journey she had undertaken since the accident. Jake, always humble, quietly assisted with logistics, ensuring everything ran smoothly. The exhibit was a celebration not just of art, but of human spirit, a testament to what can happen when kindness, dedication, and encouragement intersect in someone's life. As Emily reflected on her journey, she realized how far she had come. From isolation and despair, she had rebuilt her life, discovering independence, friendship, love, and purpose. Her wheelchair, once a symbol of limitation, had become a tool of liberation. Jake had been the catalyst for her transformation, not by taking over her life, but by supporting her courage to reclaim it. Emily understood that true healing comes from connection, trust, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability. She had not only regained mobility, but had found meaning, joy, and a renewed sense of identity that no accident could ever take away. The bond between Emily and Jake continued to strengthen, built on mutual respect, care, and shared experiences. They celebrated victories big and small, from painting milestones to personal achievements in mobility and independence. Their partnership reflected a deep understanding of each other's strengths and vulnerabilities. Emily realized that life, though unpredictable, was richer and more beautiful when shared with someone who truly cared. Together, they faced challenges with resilience, celebrated joys with enthusiasm, and created memories that would last a lifetime. The love that blossomed was rooted in empathy, patience, and unwavering support, qualities that had transformed Emily's world entirely. On a sunny afternoon, Emily and Jake rolled to the park where they had first spent meaningful time together. The trees swayed gently, and the air was filled with laughter and warmth. Emily paused, taking in the scenery, and reflected on her journey. She had faced fear, isolation, and uncertainty, yet she emerged stronger, independent, and full of hope. Jake squeezed her hand, a silent affirmation of the bond they had forged. Emily knew that her life had been forever changed, not just by the accident or the wheelchair, but by the kindness, love, and unwavering support of one young mechanic who saw her not as someone limited, but as someone limitless. By the end of the year, Emily's life had become a testament to resilience and transformation. Her paintings adorned homes, her story inspired many, and her heart was full of love and hope. The town that had once passed her by now celebrated her as a beacon of courage. And beside her, Jake remained, a constant presence, a partner and a friend who had fixed more than just wheels. Emily understood that life's greatest gifts often come in unexpected forms, and she was ready to embrace each day fully, rolling forward with confidence, joy, and love.